Hello everyone, myself Sushma Vispute here to cover the today's next topic of database management system, that is SQL language. The objective of today's session is to cover the recap of previous session, to learn and understand the SQL environment basics, and to learn and understand types of database language. To start with the recap of the previous session, already we have covered the fundamentals of structured query language and the requirements of application development, that is the set of different software that is required for any application development. So as we discussed in the previous session, to build any website that shows the data from the database, we need to install here the RDBMS software such as SQL Server, MySQL Server, or Oracle, right? That you want to use for handling the database for backend operations. Then you need to install here the server-side scripting language such as PHP, ASP, or JavaScript, right? Anyone for your front-end side application development, right? And HTML for form design. So already we have covered this. Okay, we need to install these softwares for any application development. So if we talk about the software development lifecycle, right? So this database design task comes under the design phase. So during designing phase of the software development, you can design your database. So here, as a developer of the database designer, right? As a database designer, you need to have the basic knowledge about the SQL environment and different types of database languages. To start with this SQL environment, right? Student, you can note down some basic concept, basic terms, those are related with the SQL environment. So catalog is the set of schemas that constitute the description of a database. Catalog is a set of schema that constitute the description of a database. And what is database schema here? The structure that contains the description about the objects created by the user. It can be base tables, views, or constraints. So already in the previous session, we have seen example of the database schema for the college database, where we have defined the different objects in the college database, like student, faculty, classroom, along with their attribute names. And some of the attributes in that examples are underlined, right? So there is some meaning of this underline that also we have to cover in detail in the next coming sessions, right? So as a database designer, you should clear with this two definition, data catalog and schema. Then we can talk about the database languages. So you should have knowledge about the different languages, those are exist in the SQL family, database family. So as we know, SQL is the structured query language and it provides some structured syntax, right, that we can use for performing different operations on the data, for managing the data. So all of you know what are these operations that we can perform with the database, that is insert operation, delete operation, update, read, write operation, right? So basically these database languages are actually divided into 4 different categories in this family. So these 4 categories are data definition language. In short, you can call it as a DDL. Then second category is data manipulation language, right? And it is, in short, we can call DML. Then data control language and transaction control language, right? So data definition language and data manipulation language, we have to cover in detail in our syllabus, right? And in short, also we will cover data control language and transaction control language. So here you can see, student, the SQL family, database language family, is having 4 categories of the language or commands, right? So first one is DDL language. Some are the examples given here. So create table, alter table, create database, right? Drop table. Then DML includes some command, that is insert, update, delete, select, right? DCL commands includes grant and revoke. Then TCL includes commit, save point, and rollback. Now, what is the difference between all these commands that we have to cover in detail in the coming slides? Okay? So remember here, there are 4 categories of the database language, that is DDL, DML, DCL, and TCL. Data definition language, data manipulation language, data control language, and transaction control language. In oral also, external examiner definitely asks the difference and use of these language, different commands, categories of the database language. So one by one, we will see what commands comes under these different types of database language. The first one is data definition language. So as its name itself indicate that these commands are used for defining the database. These are the statements are used to define the database structure or schema. Right? If you want to define the structure of the table, the structure of the table includes what? Name of the table, then the different attributes, names in the table, right? Then this data type of the attributes and size of the attributes. So all these things you can define, those are associated with the table using data definition language syntax. What are the different commands? Those are exist under this category. So for example, create. So this create command is used to create the objects in the database, right? So what are the different objects? Those are available in the database. That is, we have to learn in detail in our syllabus, right? So one of the example of the object is the table. Another example is the view, right? So using create command, you can create the table and you can define the structure of that table, data types of the attributes, right? With the size and so on. Another example of the data definition language is the alter command. Alter command is used to alter the structure of the database. After creating table, if you want to alter the name of the attribute or data type of the attribute, that you can do with the help of alter command. Right? So alter command you can use to alter the structure of the objects in the database. Then next is the drop command. Drop command is used to delete the objects from the database. You can use drop command to delete the table. You can use drop command to delete the view, right? So in detail, we will discuss the syntax of all these statements. The next is the truncate. Truncate command is used to remove all the records from the table, including all spaces allocated for the records are removed. So we will see the detailed difference between the drop and truncate command, right? With the help of one example and the live demo with the SQL environment, right? Then comment is used to add comments to the data dictionary, and rename command is used to rename an object. Right? So if you observe all these commands, all these related to the structure of the database, and that's why these are called as the data definition language. So with the help of data definition language commands in the family, you can define and alter the structure of the database. So whenever we talk about the data definition language, student, you can add the tag of data structure, database structure, so that you will remember what commands are exist in the DDL language. The next category of the database language is data manipulation language. These statements are used for managing data with the schema objects. As again its name indicate, these commands are used for manipulating the database or records in the table. Manipulating the database in the table. So here all these commands are associated with the records or values those we are inserting into the objects or tables. So what commands are exist here? So select command that is used to retrieve data from the database. Here one of the example is if you want to display the employee, those are having salary less than 50,000, right? So using select command, you can retrieve all the employee details. Those are having salary less than 50,000. Using select command also I can retrieve data about the defaulter student. So in that case, my query will be select name of the student from the table where attendance is less than 75%, right? So here select command we can use to retrieve the details of student with the attendance less than 75%, right? So these are some examples of the retrieve operation, select operation in the database. Again, next command that comes under the data manipulation language family, that is insert command. So if you want to insert the new record into the table, you can use insert command. So whenever student click on the submit button, this insert operation executed on the click event. Insert operation executed on the click event of the button, right? So new entry is created in the table along with the values. Those are given by the end user on the form, right? So insert command inserts the new record into the table. Then update is used to update the existing data within a table. So if somebody changes his mobile number, right, or address, that you can update using update command, right? So if anybody is changing its mobile number, that updation you can do with the help of update command, right? So any data that you want to update in future, that is existing data, that is used happen with the update command. Then delete commands are used to delete all the records from the table or delete a specific record from the table, right? If any student leaves the college, right, then that student entry you can remove from the table using delete command. If any employee leaves the college, then employee entry we can delete from the table using delete command, right? Again, we have to see these syntax for every command in detail in the next coming session. So today in the current session only we will have the basics of this command, introduction of all these types of language. Then merge and upserts are also operations provided under this DML family for insert and update operation, that also we will see in detail with the one example in the next coming sessions with the syntax, right? Then call a PLSQL, that also we have to cover in the PLSQL topic in the next coming session, explain, plan, right, and so on. The next category of the database language is data control language. These commands are used to control a database, including administrating, adding privileges, and committing the data. If you want to give the privileges as a DBA, if you want to privilege to any user, right, that you can do with the help of grant command. Assume you are the DBA, database administrator of your database system, and you want to give different privileges to the different users. For example, you want to give only read and write access to some users, right? You want to give only read access to some users. You want to give write access to user, that you can do with the grant command. For some users only you want to give the permission for insert operation. For some users only you want to give the permission for select operation, right? For any specific operation, you can assign privileges to different users with the help of grant command, right? And in future, if you want to revoke that privileges, right? If you want to withdraw these access privileges given by using grant command, that you can do using revoke command, right? So revoke command will withdraw the access privileges given with the grant command. So these are the example of data control language. So we're using this command, data control language command, you can create the new users as per your application requirements. Then the next category of the SQL environment family, language family, is transaction control language. These are the statements used to manage the changes made by the DML statements. It allows statements to be grouped together into logical transactions. This transaction control language allows you to group the set of commands into the logical transactions. So in the third unit, in the fourth unit of the syllabus, we have to cover in detail the transaction management concept, and that time we have to discuss in detail all these commands, because the concurrency control protocol are based on these commands. That time definitely you will clear with this transaction control language. So here some are the examples. Commit to save the work done, right? Save point to identify point in a transaction to which you can later roll back, right? And rollback is another example of the transaction control language to restore the database to the original since the last commit, right? So all these are the commands required for concurrency control management in the transaction, right? When multiple transaction runs in parallel, we need to use this different control statement, right, to manage the transaction, right? So I hope student, you all are clear with this basics of database language types, right? So to summarize this, there are total 4 categories of these database languages, that is data definition language, data manipulation language, then transaction control language, and data control language, right? So thank you. Have a good day.